Okay, guys, now before you get mad at me, I know you didn't get much warning. You didn't know I was going to live stream. You know what? Neither did I. So, you didn't, everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's in the same boat. So, today what I'm going to do, I've had a couple people ask if they can get a glimpse of kind of the show in progress, which of course is over here, edited in Sony Vegas. Vegas Pro 2012. Yeah, that's crazy. So that's a pretty old version. Almost 10-year-old version of Vegas. I didn't even realize. I'm using a 10-year-old version of Vegas. And that is crazy. Crazy stuff. So anyway, what I'm doing today is just for fun, I wanted to kind of go through episode 1 because I haven't looked at it in a while, as I've been churning away on episode 2. And what I wanted to do is just kind of look at episode 1 and see if there's anything that jumps out at me, you know, that's particularly egregious and or needs fixing up, right? So obviously you don't get a soundtrack, so tough luck there. But that shot definitely bugs me a little bit, and so does this one actually. I like the background there, but I feel like the rendering of the character is a little bit lacking. Like this is a shot that was actually touched up about a month ago or something. So this is the great thing about being the guy in charge, is I can always go through and improve things, you know, anytime I want. And it has happened many times where I've gone back and you know, tweak some things. I see a real problem in that shot. Actually, let's pause a moment. Boom. Okay, yeah, so this is a great example. There's actually I mean, look at this. Apparently, back in the day when I did this shot, I laid in the background, or I did a quick painting, and then I laid in this piece of the background with the doorway behind it, that you can see I pulled it from another shot. Okay, so I guess this is the part where I say, trust me, people, I will catch these things. I don't expect too many of these sorts of issues to make its way into the final show when it's actually published or distributed. But yeah, this definitely needs a little fixing up. We need these lines across the back here. Smooth these little bits out here. So now, for my process, hey Ashdan, morning. I don't know if it's morning where you are, but it's morning where I am. Okay, so if we look over here, this is shot number 45. So the challenge, of course, for me right now is, was this shot created in Vegas, or was it not Vegas, I'm sorry, OpenToonz or Tahoma, or was it created in Krita? I literally have no idea, although as I'm looking at it, actually, I would bet money that the actual shot was probably created in Blender, because I know the character was. I know this version of Asher was created in Blender. And you know, it is kind of a humbling experience here, because the closer I look, the more things I see that I really would like to fix up. I mean, the character, I won't belabor it, but if you look really closely at the outlines, you can see that the outline basically circumscribes the shape of the character, but doesn't actually come in here and delineate the ears and stuff. And so that's not necessarily a problem. I think if you were just watching the show, you would certainly not ever think about that. but as I'm looking at it, it is something that it's like, well, why don't we just go ahead and fix it if we can, right? So anyway, I'm checking the messages real quick. I did want to briefly address one question that a subscriber asked that has nothing to do with animation, because as you guys know, probably, the other day when I was, and by the way, I'm browsing for that scene, when I was working on you know, a couple shots this last week, I sort of digressed for a bit and was talking about Bitcoin. You know, I was talking about what's going on with Bitcoin, because obviously the price is tanking. And it would be my judgment that probably, let's see, this is 45, so let me look in the folders here. I'm looking in the folders where I keep the shots. So hopefully, guys, this isn't too boring for you. And if it is, you'll go watch something else, and I wouldn't really blame you. Okay, so we have this Blender file, Asher pre-render before deformations in Blender, and then we got the final render. So let's pop up the Blender file and see what that is. So anyway, the guy, well, let's see here. This is interesting. Okay, this is interesting. Make sure this is actually the correct shot. Yeah, he scowls and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so in Blender, wow, we don't have a camera move. Okay, well, that makes sense, because if we jump over to Vegas, what I can see right here in that little icon is that this is animated just in the timeline. As you can see, there's this cropping. So the animation of the camera is just a simple crop situation. No big deal. Okay, so basically this Blender scene kind of stands alone. So what you have is, let me see here. Boy, what a mess, actually. Okay, so what this is, and again, guy, you know, if this is completely boring, I apologize. But you know what? As I was just saying to someone yesterday, I was talking to a girl who, you know, is sort of a possible voice talent, you know, for the characters, and we were talking, and oh, I just lost my train of thought. As you guys know, I can't think and work at the same time. I can't multitask. The whole idea of multitasking is just like crazy. You can't multitask. Anyway, what we have here is an image sequence that was mapped onto a plane, and so actually all the character animation is just is Blender shape keys. Okay, which is really cool. I mean, it's a super flexible, super powerful way to you know, make mush things around. You have a lot more control than you have with like the OpenToonz or Tahoma plastic tool, right? But the problem that we have here, so we've got this situation that was pre-rendered. So you've got this image sequence of the scene, and then I came into Blender and just deformed it. So the problem is that as you can see, there's no grease pencil or anything going on here. This is just an image sequence. So that means we've got to get back to the image sequence and, you know, fix things up. So anyway, this guy made this comment about the Bitcoin thing, and so I'm kind of directing this comment to that person to answer their concern. Okay, so their concern was not that there's any, hey Max, how you doing? And by the way, I think it was, hang on one second. Can you show the controls, please? Are you talking about in Blender? You talking about the shape keys? Go ahead and answer that, and if that's what you're talking about, then yeah, I can show you that. Are you a Blender guy? Are you a Blender user? Or this is obviously Blender 2.79, so I have 2.81a and 2.93 on my system, but I haven't actually been using them that much. Now there's definitely some reasons to, if I wasn't able to get like everything I need to get done in Tahoma, and occasionally lately Krita as well, I would probably be giving Blender a serious look, because it's getting better and better. But when you say show the controls, are you talking about the shape keys? I need you to give me a yes or no, Max, so that I understand what it is you're asking for. Yeah, okay. All right, so here's what you do. In Blender, in 2.79, you initially are going to either add a mesh, and then you're going to create a material, and it's going to be either an image or an image sequence, whatever it is. But the most efficient way to do that, without having to go deep on how the materials work, would be to you go Shift A, images as planes. So Max, you probably already know how to do that, I'm guessing. So now we have an image sequence that's mapped onto the plane. So here are the basic steps we're talking about. And it works pretty much the same way in Blender 2.8 plus, okay? But what you do is, if you go into edit mode, you can see that the mesh has been subdivided, right? Okay, so there's two ways to do that. You could hit the A key and select all the points in the mesh, and then hit the W key and subdivide it. Or you could just add a subdivision surface modifier, which then will subdivide it, and then if you hit apply, it'll actually bake that subdivision into the mesh. So it's two ways of doing the same thing. Okay, so that gets you to your starting point. Then here's what you do. You would go to your, let me see what they officially call these buttons, the data buttons. And in the data buttons, you have these things called shape keys. Okay, so what the shape keys are I'll add one right now. So what you do is, without being in edit mode, okay, hold on. Okay, cool. Okay, so here's what you do. I just showed you how to subdivide the mesh, and again, you can do it by as kind of a modeling function by manually subdividing it, or you can add the subdivision surface modifier. If you add the subdivision surface modifier, to use shape keys, you actually do need to apply it so that there's a true subdivision of the mesh. And then the basic operations with shape keys are as follows. Number one, you add the shape keys first. So you want to be kind of thinking about what the various shapes are going to be that you're going to need to do whatever it is you want to do. Okay? Then what happens is, when you jump into edit mode, you can see the deformation, and I'm seeing some nastiness, which might be because, let me see here, might be because of the subdivision surface modifier I just added and then deleted. That would be a little strange, but so why don't we do it this way? Let's just start from scratch. Let's just start clean. Okay, so this is actually what I started with. This is a great example. The problem with this is that he was off character, because the first time I drew it, I actually hadn't, this is a long time ago, and I hadn't settled on who the character really was or what he was supposed to look like. Okay, so with that, you've subdivided the mesh, and as you can see, if you hit the O key to activate the proportional editing tool, then you can drag this stuff around, and then by scrolling your mouse, you can actually deform it any way you want to. Okay? So the first step for me was I needed to actually get him on character to begin with before I even dealt with like face. So generally speaking, it's not necessarily the greatest idea to go in and edit the basis. You can, but so if I kind of stretch him out a little bit like this, that actually puts him a little more on character. And as you can see, that's now baked into the basis. Okay, so step 2 would be I want to make him smile. So now what I'm going to do is go to key number 1, and when I jump into edit mode, you'll see that we still see the deformed mesh based on the basis. Now if I go ahead and give him, I'm going to just do this obviously really quick, but let's just say we give him kind of a bit of a smile. Okay? Now when we jump out of edit mode by hitting the tab key, that disappears. Okay, so now if I go to key number 2 and I want him to frown like this and maybe scowl a little bit, okay, again, when you go out of edit mode, it disappears. Well, there's a reason for that. So the only shape key that stays active all the time is whatever you do in the basis. So if you don't want to be locked into the basis, then create a shape key just to sort of dial things into shape. And then you'll do what I'm going to show next, which is when you click on the shape key, there's this value thing. And as you can see, you can dial the value in, right? Same thing here. And you also can mix and match them. So this can actually be added to this. You can have both working together to whatever degree you want. And if you mouse over it and hit the I key, if you mouse over the slider, and then you just make an adjustment, hit the I key again, and now that deformation is animated. So anytime that you jump into edit mode, it will jump back to the actual shape you're dealing with. So there's the basis, there's key number 1, there's key number 2. When I jump out of edit mode, those deformations disappear because it's up to me to decide when and how much of them you want to use and whether you want to animate it. Okay? So that pretty much is shape keys in a nutshell. And as a single utilitarian animation tool, it's pretty powerful. If I added another shape key, for example, in this case, I could say, well, maybe I want to... Now we have a problem because the character is married to the background. So any deformations I do to the character are going to affect the background as well, which basically is pretty stupid. You really wouldn't want that normally. So larger movements, such as hitting the control key and drawing a lasso around his arm and saying, well, okay, now what I want to do is I want to make a little adjustment here. Okay, so we actually have to hit A twice so that we don't have anything selected. And you'll see now what the essentially what the limitation is. Okay, so if I hit the rotation and I say I want to move his arm out like that, I'm not being careful at this point to make sure this looks right or anything like that. I'm just this is for illustration purposes only. Okay, so as you can see, if this animated, anytime you get into rotations, you're asking for trouble because it's going, well, I didn't actually do this as a very good example. What I should do is stretch this way out like this. Almost like a bone situation where I'm wanting to actually straighten his arm out. So just again, for illustration purposes, let's say I did that. Obviously that looks stupid, but here's the problem is, you see what happens is the interpolation from one shape to another is linear. So if you're doing what I often do and you're operating at 8 frames a second so that you're going to actually snap from this position to this position, then you can actually use shape keys for that type of thing. If you're looking for real smooth transitions, this is where shape keys fall apart because Blender is going to draw a straight line from position A to position B, which means at this point it looks totally doofy, right? You do better to use bones and actually set up a rig. So that pretty well covers it. Yeah, okay, so yeah, and as lip sync is the quintessential place where you would probably want to use shape keys for sure. So there's Asher, and getting back to yeah, so getting back to this question this guy had, I wanted to cover that real quick. So those of you who are completely bored by stuff that's a little off topic, please forgive me. Forgive me. So, okay, actually, I'm glad oh, this is wonderful. Okay, look at, what a miracle. Okay, Max, I didn't realize that you're the guy that made the comment. Okay, so I want to address your question, or your comment, very, very directly, okay? I want to show you something here. This is, the people that are, like, there's some people on YouTube right now that are talking a lot about that this is the opportunity to buy Bitcoin, okay? See, I agree with you that you don't want to be stupid, okay? And gambling is stupid. Investing is not gambling, though. There is risk, but it's not gambling. Here's why. It's very, very simple. If you look at, if you zoom out to 5 years, here's the problem. I really want to explain this clearly so you understand what's going on here. First of all, let's look at days. Okay? If you had Bitcoin and it started losing value, understand that it took 1, 2, 3, there's a whole week, there's another week, there's another week. It has taken over a month for Bitcoin to go from its highest price to its current low price. And this is true with, if you look at stocks, if you look at the market, some of the holdings that I have, like this is this is a exchange traded fund, for example, that's based on companies in Poland, right? Things are going up, which is great. Sometimes they go down, and when they go down, I think it's important to recognize that you have plenty of time to respond. That's why these people that talk about, hey, Bitcoin's at the bottom, it's down to 35, now's the time to buy. That's stupid. That's completely stupid. The reality is that it takes weeks for really bad news to happen. So if we look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, for example, let's go back to the worst drop in recent history. This is what all the gamblers would have really been crying about. You got this incredible drop. This did not happen in a day. This took weeks to develop. So this is February 24th, and this is March. So this took a month. This drop took a month. Now, if you were invested and you didn't want to suffer this loss, then cash out, sell your stocks, turn them back into cash once the drop starts happening. Now, is it possible that you're going to do that and then immediately it's going to start going up again and you're going to be crying because you didn't get those gains? Yes. You are always going to lose some money around these turns. Everyone does. You have to bake that into your planning. If you don't, you're stupid, really. I mean, it's just silly. So anybody that tells you hurry up and invest in Bitcoin now because, boy, it's going to go back up, that is so stupid you can't even describe how stupid it is. Like, there's not a word that is strong enough to describe the level of stupidity, okay? There is no such word. Stupid is the best we have, so we'll call it stupid. Because when Bitcoin finally starts rising again, look at when its current rise from around $10,000 to $60,000. Look how long this took. This was October of 2020. And it took months. It took until April of 2021. You say, well, I didn't get in I didn't get in on the big rise. Well, yeah, no one did. And if they did, they paid a price for it. And the price that they paid was that they had to buy it way back here and then wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. You want to know what I did? I actually had some Bitcoin in Coinbase, and what happened was when I saw that this was happening around this price point, I said, oh, there's no way that can continue, and I sold it. Which was really, really stupid. I had not at that point in time educated myself yet and learned what, if I'd have known 6 months ago even what I know now, I would have made a lot more money than I did. Let's just put it that way. A lot more. Because I've really made it my business recently to educate myself about how the market works and how money works. Now, the thing that people don't understand about Bitcoin, and I'll say this, and it's true of all stocks or anything you could invest in. There's a key point I want to make that most people don't think about or understand, which is this. When you sell something in the market, there is no sale unless there is also a buyer. You don't just sell it and it goes into the ether. Okay, yeah, see, Max is correct. Max is 100% correct. I did it yesterday. Let me show you what I actually did yesterday. I put Bitcoin on a 1-second chart. This is, from an investment standpoint, actually, let's zoom out here a little bit. Let me show you something. This is the worst possible scenario you can ever have, was what I had yesterday, which is this. You've got an overall prevailing downtrend. So this is over hours, over weeks, over days. No matter what time frame you looked at, this is what we had going on yesterday. Okay, so the bottom line is that it's enormously difficult. I tried it, and I figured out a way to do it, and I did make a little profit. I did it with paper trading because there's no way I was going to risk real money for that. But when you have a downtrend like this, it's like chasing a rabbit downhill. Because what you have to do is you have to buy in here and sell out here. You have to try to catch these little profit areas. And what you'll find is that the attrition from the turnaround, like by the time you get the signal, it's already too late. It's already here. By the time you know that the price is here, it's actually already here. There's a delay, and that you have to be aware of. So between the delay and the attrition in the turnaround, so let's say you lose this profit, you lose this profit, your only gain is going to be this little tiny area in the middle. And what you find is by the time you start making profits, it's turned again. Right? So this is hugely difficult, and anybody who tells you to try this is really stupid. They're telling you to be stupid. Don't be stupid. Really successful traders, people who really make their living in the markets, will tell you, always chase an uptrend. If you're going to do it here where it's climbing, so that if it goes sideways, like if you buy in here and you go, oh man, it went down, you can always wait. You can always wait, and it'll go back up. If you're in if the overall trend behind it is up, right? And what that means is that when you're in a situation that we're in right now with Bitcoin, what you do is you get the hell out completely. You sell. You just get rid of it, because right now what we have is, in every time frame, nothing but down, 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 down. Now the point I made about buying and selling is this: if I've got some Bitcoin and I want to get rid of it, I can't sell it unless I find a buyer. So when I go to sell it, what I do is I place a market order to sell my Bitcoin. And now let's just say right now we've got a situation where everybody's trying to sell. Everybody's like, we're losing value because I'm an idiot and I bought it when it was at $60,000. And now I'm in a panic, and I've been crying for the last month. I've been going, oh man, maybe it'll turn around again. Maybe it'll go up. Maybe it will. Maybe it will. And anybody that has a brain can look at this whole chart and spend 2 days learning some fundamentals and realize that this trend is going to last for a while. In fact, if I was going to predict, I would say it's probably going to go down below. It's going to either come close to 20,000. I'm sure it's going to go below 30. So now everybody's panicking and they're selling. So here's what happens. Everybody's trying to sell, but the problem is there's no buyers. There's nobody waiting there to buy it, but you can't sell unless there's a buyer. So what happens? Well, what happens is, and I don't know the actual mechanism that the exchanges, how this really takes place. I don't know if the exchanges are able to tick down the price in order to attract new buyers, but one way or another, that's what has to happen. So I go to sell, but there's nobody to buy. So now the price has to come down in order to attract a buyer. There is no seller without a buyer. There's no buyer without a seller. There's always both. So the actual price action you see is truly just it's actually two people becoming happy. I'm happy because I sold it, and Max, you're happy because you bought it. You're happy because you wanted to buy it, and you may be taking a risk, and you would be in this climate, and here's why. The only people that win in this situation are the people who maybe bought here and then sold before it went down very far because they made a profit, or the people that can wait. So the people that saw this rise back here and then said, you know what, I'm just going to wait. Okay, and then they got this stratospheric rise. But remember, there's a cost they had to pay for that, which is they had to wait for a couple years for it to happen. The only people who lose, the gamblers, the stupid people, this gets right to your question, Max. Yes, sort of, Max. Let me answer that in a moment. The stupid people are the people who bought here when it was peaking out. They didn't respect the fact that in the bigger trend, which this is over days, right? The bigger trend, as you can see, is that it's flattening out. You can see this curve flattening out. The difference between these valleys is getting lower, and then right here we've got a horrible situation because we're seeing a higher peak, but then even though the peak here is higher, the valley's lower. So the overall thing is the rabbit's climbed to the top of the mountain, and now it's climbing over the other side. This is a mountain. This is a juggernaut of price action, but it's not a gamble. It's not It's not a uneducated risk. It's an educated risk where you set a reasonable goal with a reasonable stop loss, meaning that if it goes down a certain amount, if it doesn't go my way, I'm going to sell out immediately and cut my losses, which you do have to do sometimes. In fact, probably a lot of the time. So yeah, this is not going to change anytime soon. This is going to take weeks to play out, and frankly, anybody who tells you, hey, Bitcoin's way down, buy now, they're correct to a degree, because it is going to go back up. But and when it does, it's probably going to repeat the pattern it had back here. But for this to all develop, what you see is a couple things. Number one, each of these things took a little shorter time frame than the prior one to develop. And so it might happen faster, but it's still not very fast. So it's going to take until at least probably July to sort of decide where it's going to go. If you look at the way this trend's going, it's kind of going to go boink, boink, boink. You're into June and July, and then maybe it'll turn around, maybe it'll keep going. But when that happens, you're going to have a month to decide. You're going to have a month of seeing this stuff happen, a month or two, where you can go, well, okay, maybe I'm going to take my chances and assume it's going to keep climbing, right? And then you might be wrong, but there's good reasons to kind of know that you're okay. Let me see here. So what Max asked is, what he's saying is hourly chasing jumps. Yeah, and you're completely right. When I did this yesterday as an experiment with paper trading, just pretend money, just to see if I could do it. I wanted to see if I could make a profit chasing downhill. And what I found was it's almost impossible, because even if I find the perfect buy point, like at this valley right here, by the time it starts to turn a profit, it's gone down again. You can't catch it. You just cannot catch the ball rolling down the hill. And I tried. I spent about 4 hours yesterday just experimenting with, is it possible? Like this little trend right here, you could make a small order. So if you do paper trading here, and I want to buy, so I'm going to do a buy. You can put a limit on it, and when you put a limit, what that means is you say, if I want to get it at this price and I'm not going to pay any more. Well, what happens is, if there's not a seller on the other side of that equation willing to sell to you at that price, is the order won't get filled. It just won't get filled. So you can protect yourself in that regard, definitely. So it's a 50-line algorithm in C. Well, I don't know what you mean by what's a 50-line algorithm. The problem with gambling is once you lose your money, you try to get it back. That's true. That is true. I discovered yesterday how the banks do it. This is an interesting thing. What I found was that, like, look at how it's still tanking. It's just going down, like, it's just down, 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 man. It's amazing. I find it kind of funny, actually. But what's funny is, if you invest a modest amount here and then it starts going down, if you have unlimited money, like, you have no limit to the amount of money you have, and you can keep rebuying and rebuying and rebuying, so that you buy into your losses. What happens is, when it finally reaches the valley, the total volume of money you have is so big that it only has to come back up a little bit in order for you to make a profit. And then what you do is you immediately sell out and start over, and that's how it's a guarantee that banks will never ever lose money. Because they have essentially unlimited ability to keep adding to the pot, so that they survive the downtrends, but then they can ride the uptrends. You know, it's an amazing thing to see how money really works in supply and demand and everything. But this is not animation, so yeah. Well, that's right. Yes, the most useful for me using TradingView, the most useful thing I found is this indicator called Bollinger Bands. That have these arrows that give an indication of what your buy and sell signals are, when you should buy and when you should sell and cut your losses. So the red arrows say cut your losses, and the green arrows say hang in there. They do a really good job of keeping you steady through the scary time, because look what happens here. You've got green, and then right here you got these candles turning red, but yet the arrows stay green. Because what they're looking at is they're looking at the smaller time frames underneath the larger time frame to see what the underlying trend is behind it. I'm not going to explain. I would love to explain it because it's fascinating, and it's the key to being able to invest safely if you're doing like kind of short-term trading, trying to make money. It's really cool how it works if you learn it. But the problem is that if the overall trend is down instead of up, this still doesn't help you very much. You're still gonna have a really hard time making a profit. So anyway, enough of that. But yeah, there's plenty of indicators that you can use to help guide you, in terms of making reasonably good buying and selling decisions. I don't consider it gambling because I am extremely conservative with my money. I'm really careful. And yet, at the same time, by really educating myself basically for the last month or so, really boning up on everything I could learn about technical analysis of investments, has made it so that I can chase after a return of maybe 10% per month, which is pretty aggressive, and do it fairly safely. So, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So, okay, let's get back to work. 45, we're on scene 45. We're in Blender. We dealt with the shape keys, and the problem is that we need to get back to the constituent material that makes up this scene. So, by the way, forgive me, everybody that's bored stiff with the whole investment thing. Who didn't necessarily want to have to listen to that. Okay, so this is Asher pre-render before deformation in Blender. So what's kind of bugging me here is that I don't know where the raw material is. So I'm going to basically wonder if this is a Krita scene. I'm going to look for 45. I guess I'll just do a search. 045. Okay, we do have a Krita file. So let's open up the Krita file and see what we've got to work with here. I haven't really been in Krita for like a week. It's been, I've just been finding I'm able to get the job done in Tahoma, so I just want to be pragmatic, and if there's no reason to jump back to Krita, I'm not going to do it. But here we have a situation where the shot was originally put together in Krita, it looks like. So let's go ahead and give that a look and see what we have, because this really needs to be cleaned up. You can see this garbage here in the background, and obviously this background was never properly married to the rest of it, which is kind of silly. And I don't want to deliver a crappy product, so that's what I'm doing today. Is I'm just kind of going through and saying, let's just find problems. Let's find things that are wrong and fix them. I drive my son nuts because I relate. Okay, this is interesting. Oh boy, this is truly a mess. Okay, because the characterization's wrong, so that was fixed in Blender, but the problem is the background's wrong too. So this is a real problem. I don't know where the pieces are that comprise the shot that's in Blender that got rendered. So this might actually be, we might be at the point of diminishing returns. If so, what would we do? Okay, so this is actually a really good study for you guys that are interested in the nuts and bolts of dealing with a large-scale animation project where something's gone wrong. Well, something's gone wrong here. We've got this ancient Krita file where the characterization for Asher is completely wrong because basically the character got sort of refined after this was originally done. So what do we have to work with here? Well, if we look at the Blender file, we've got this image sequence. And what we want to do is we want to fix this background. Okay? So let's look at a couple things. First of all, if I go back to Vegas, this is shot number 45. So my suspicion would be that in Blender we're probably set up for rendering to that. And it says this is scene 45, render 045. So that's correct. So this is the correct origination for this scene. Now let's look at what the animation is to see what kind of limits are on us in terms of tweaking out and improving the background. Okay, the good news is he doesn't move much. The bad news is he moves a little. So that means we've got a problem. Hey, Art of Law, good morning. I've been enjoying your process lately, and Garrett, glad to catch you on live stream. Yeah, and by the way, sorry for the short notice. I just decided to start streaming at 8 o'clock, and 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I checked first to see if Darren T was going to be streaming this morning. It looks like nothing's scheduled, so, and he often does stream on Sundays, so I try not to step on his toes and, you know, get in the way of his stream. So what can we do here is the question. And probably the answer is let's see what we can do with the grease pencil. there are basically two things I would want to do. One is I would want to blur this little edge here that's kind of jumping out. Can we blur that? And then maybe add these lines over here, maybe with the grease pencil, but just put the lines in and kind of let them fade out so that we're not getting in the way of this little move right here. So it's a definite kludge, but you know, this is what you have to do. So if we go back to Krita, I think the shortest path to success here is going to be the following. I'm going to go File, New, and I have no idea what the size on this is. I'm going to assume that the original material was full HD. I don't know if that's true, and we'll find out pretty quick. So we're going to create a new scene that's full HD. And then what we're going to do is import the image sequence that's being deformed from Blender. Okay, so I want to import animation frames. I'm going to add images, and what we should find is in folder number 45 is the image sequence that is mapped to this plane here in Blender. That's what we're trying to find, is this image sequence that animates. So here in Blender, what's going on is we've got just really simple animation with his lip sync and stuff, and I think that most of the animation, like the scowl on his face and the movement of his arm. Let me see something though, actually. Okay, I'm wrong. As you can see, when he moves his arm, the background doesn't get deformed, so that means this is baked into the animation, actually. So that's good news. That means it's going to be easier to fix in Krita. So so our steps are this. I'm going to import the animation frames into Krita, do some painting over top of it to fix it, re-render it back, then come over to Blender and re-render this. So I'm basically fixing up the constituent image material that is being used in Blender, and but that's an image sequence. So that's got to be rendered. Then we just simply re-render from Blender, and everything should be updated in our edit, and we're in good shape. Is there another person explaining animation process? Do you mean on YouTube? Hey Dirt. There's lots of people explaining animation process. Well, okay. Actually, I should qualify that. I am not aware, as far as do not step on a stone. Yeah, Darren T. If you go to DARRENT, if you go to Darren T's YouTube channel, if you want to learn OpenToonz and Tahoma, like really learn the software and get the basics, then Darren's does a really good job of teaching that. He's got a course and stuff. So yeah. Okay, so you were referring to Darren. Anyway, back to work. We've got to go into Krita, go to scene number 45. Hopefully this works. So this says this is Asher pre-render before deformation in Blender. Okay? So I think this is what we want. So I'm going to hit Control A, and I'm going to import all of these frames, and then I'm going to hit OK. Now we're going to find out whether it's actually full HD or not. And it's not. Okay, so let me just go ahead and play this. I'm going to redo this in the proper size, but okay, that's great. Okay, cool. I know what I'm doing now. All right, so we're going to go ahead and create a new scene at Broadcast HD. So let's do 1280 by 720. Okay, and now we're going to import the animation frames. Now, usually this is not what you have to do, and you don't really want to have to do it. But sometimes you do, because, you know, just in the process of creating a show, you will make mistakes, and there are stuff you got to go back and fix up. So, did you catch Ian Hubert? No, he's a great, talented guy, Ian Hubert. I've seen some of his stuff. I don't know about Dynamo Dream, but I certainly, if you're into Blender especially, Ian Hubert is an amazingly, I shouldn't even say talented. He is talented, but a better word would be skilled. This guy has worked very hard to learn how to really use the software in amazing creative ways. Good afternoon from Zambia. Hey, wonderful. I'm going to check one other thing before I go too far. I actually had this opened a bit ago. I'm going to open it too because it may turn out that this is a better starting point. So give me half a second. Hey, Ajax. Okay, yeah, see, the problem with this scene that was the original version of it is that the background is wrong. Yeah, forget that. We're not going to go there. So that's 045.ping.cry. Watch what I'm about to do, and some of you are going to have a heart attack. I'm going to save as scenes, and I'm going to go 045. Come on, Krita. Dot. I guess that didn't really work. I'm looking for. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Sorry. It's minus 045. Okay, here we go. So I'm literally going to save over this right now. Oh, so now you guys are having a total panic attack because I just destroyed my old work. I don't care. I do not care a whit. I'd redo the freaking scene if I had to, the whole thing. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to fix this up so that we can bring it into Blender and have everything work. So step one is going to be we're going to use a little bit of a blur tool. So I'm going to just use a plain old blending wingdinger, and generally for something like this you probably want to crank the opacity down so you can kind of ease it in. And all I'm doing is I'm just fixing this problem here. Just going to blur it out. I guess we can crank this up a little bit. And oh yeah, India, good evening. That's cool. I mean, I love it when people okay, actually I made a mistake. Okay, my bad. Stupid attack. No wonder the blender is not working. Blender, I say blender. The blending brush, not blender. Okay, we've got a little bit of an issue here. What we need to do, if you want to fix something, like if I go in here into the main paint layer and paint over this and blend this, it's only going to be fixed on the first frame. So here's how we can deal with that. Watch this. This is actually a cool technique in Krita. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the S key and I'm going to select this area that's problematic. Okay? I'm going to go Control C, Control V. Now what we have is we have one layer that is just this piece that's now laid over top of the entire scene. So now I can fix just that little tiny piece and the whole scene is going to be fixed. Right? So this that keyframe can be deleted. So now we can do what I was trying to do in the first place. And by the way, I'm going to save my work. Yeah, and you know what, Maria, by the way, I wanted to tell you, Maria, I had mentioned at the beginning of this live stream, I was talking about somebody, a voice talent that I was talking to. Okay? So bear with me for half a second while I check something, because this is going to be of interest to you, I think. I'm going into my history and I want to see. Oh, just be patient, guys. I'm almost there. I'm looking for. Oh, come on. You know, isn't it so? It is so like YouTube that the one video I want to find right now. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. So this. Okay. So this is Shelby, and Shelby actually has worked with my daughter. My daughter has a business. She's a party princess. Who knew? And Shelby's worked with Natalie doing the party princess thing. But Shelby's a talented actress, voice talent, blah, blah, blah. But she's got this channel called Shelby Loves Shakespeare, where she's basically, I mentioned that for Maria's enrichment. If you want to check it out, Shelby Loves Shakespeare. Right? Okay, so back to work. So we're going to hit the B key and go back to our blending brush, and now it should work. Yes, and this is not my favorite blending brush. I'm going to use a different one. I like typically like that one. Okay, so anyway, Marie, I thought you might find what Shelby's doing kind of cool. So all I'm doing here is just touching this up, and probably this needs to be blended. That I can only get down to here though, because as you can see, that's all there is, right? So but that looks okay. And then what I would think would be probably, let's grab an airbrush and let's just kind of well, I think I've got an airbrush here. There we go. Let's grab this airbrush, shrink this down, and now I'm just going to add black, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and just dial this in a little bit more, like that. Okay, and then I can just kind of ease in the opacity so that I'm essentially hiding the fact that these lines sort of fade into nothingness, right? So now let's grab a plain old venerable pencil and just kind of, well, that was a little sloppy, frankly. Just kind of ease that in there. Just a little bit of a suggestion. So now we're kind of putting on our matte painter hat, right? And probably the smart course of action here would be to go like this and maybe go to a mid-tone gray. Okay, where are we at here? Are we getting a line? Okay, I see. I got to press harder. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to kind of, nope, that's probably wrong. More like there. Okay, so I'm just kind of sneaking these lines in here. Hit the 5 key. It's like I haven't been doing Krita for a while, and I'm forgetting my hotkeys. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and Control E, bake that airbrush stuff down into it, and then I want to add one more layer that's going to just have, actually probably the thing to do would be to go like this. Okay, so I'm doing it this way to sort of get the lines in the right place, and then I'll go in and erase back out of there. Hang on one second. Okay, sorry to bother you, David. Actually, I recently finished a video Duga, which took me 4 months. Give it a check. How is it? Sure, Ajax, no problem. If I'm going to do it, everybody has to do it. So we're going to go to YouTube, and we're going to go to Ajax's channel. No, not Ajax, you goofy thing. I don't know if I'm subscribed, so actually one of the things I find annoying about YouTube is that if you actually search, if you do a search based on somebody's channel name, it doesn't actually find them oftentimes. And I think I have the wrong Ajax. This is like video game related, but yeah, so there's no good way, believe it or not, there's no good way to actually go straight from seeing Ajax in the chat to going to his channel. I mean, I actually have to do like a search and kind of hope. There's actually quite a few people with a channel named Ajax, and a surprising number of them have something to do with cartoons or gaming. So I'm looking for the icon, you know, that I see on your comments. Unfortunately, stupid as it is, I can't find it that quick, so I don't want to like waste a long time. I will look at it. Put a comment. I'll tell you what, Ajax, do me a favor. after this live stream, put a standard comment on the video so that I get the comment, and then I can follow the link from the comment to your channel and I'll check it out. So just do that for me so that I can keep moving forward here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is take the lines, I'm going to put them in a group. So I'm hitting Control G, and then I'm going to add another layer, and this layer is going to be put in erase mode. And the reason I did that is now it doesn't matter what color I use. I can take my airbrush, and by the way, I need to be in brush mode, not line mode. Okay, so now I can take my airbrush and actually just brush this out so that it just kind of naturally falls off, right? So that's where your and this is going to be really light anyway, so it's not like it has to be super super dark or anything. Okay, cool. So now that's fine. I didn't actually get rid of it all, so I want to be careful that I don't fix my... Just put another layer on top of this. I'm being pretty liberal here with my layers today. And let's grab our pencil. Actually, let's not. Let's grab this. Set the thickness to probably 2 pixels. And then use lines to... Again, I'm doing the same thing again. I'm just trying to put some noise in here that looks more or less correct-ish. Oh, I don't know why. There's something going on with my stylus where Windows keeps asking me if I want to use sticky keys. I'm like, no. Okay, so now we can group these guys. Group. I'm sorry, I did not mean to group them. What I meant to do is merge them. So Control E. Okay. So now we've got that in a layer. We've got that in a layer. And I would say we're in pretty good shape. So now what we want to do is we want to copy over, because some of you that are coming in late are going, oh my gosh, that doesn't look anything like Asher. That looks completely stupid, Dave. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. You are correct, Amundo. All right, so I'm going to now use my standard pencil, and I'm going to go ahead and make a couple fixes here on the ink work. We might as well, because we're here, we've got the opportunity. Let's make it look a little bit better, and then when we render it out of Blender, it'll be amazing, right? And we want it to be amazing. We don't want it to be not amazing. We want it to be amazing. Don't we? Yes, we do. Okay. That I'm not sure I like. Let me hit the... It's freaky because I've been so out of Krita for a week, or actually a couple weeks. Because I've just been so... kind of in Tahoma getting my work done that I've like forgotten my hotkeys in Krita. It's a little freaky. Okay. Okay. Now, I think I might... Okay, I was going to say I thought I might have a problem, but it looks like I don't. Okay, this looks good. So we got 48 frames. Yeah, we better save our work. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to render this. Okay, so we want 48 frames. Is that correct? Yes. From 0 to 48. Okay, and now I'm going to hit Control R. And we're going to render into scenes 045. Asher pre-render before deformations in Blender. And that's the folder, but my file name is wrong. I do not have the correcto file name. So let me go back here to... Yep, it's just 045. So this is 045 period. And they are pings, so I should get a warning now. I don't want only unique frames, I want everything. Yep, I got the warning, so that means we're about to overwrite it. So boop. So now it's rendering this whole scene over top of the old one. Render, 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 and let's see. Now my fixes are there, but I see a problem. I actually see two problems. So I didn't do my job that well. Do you have any thoughts on using the assets from this property for items like a graphic novel, merchandise, t-shirt? Well, yeah, I mean, when you say thoughts, I'm not sure quite what you mean by thoughts. Like, is that a good idea, or do I plan to do that? Yada yada yada. Yeah, I think it's certainly it's certainly all fair game. And as we get into the place where we're looking at crowdfunding, it probably makes sense to very seriously consider those types of things, you know, as promotional, you know, items that help support the promotion of the show. So, yeah. Now, as far as graphic novel, you know, I've friends who are authors. You know, obviously I'm an author too, but I tend to favor screenplays. I don't enjoy writing books as much. So, but yeah, I think it would be good to look at all the possibilities in terms of what you might do with the property to maybe expand into other related, you know, products that all. In other words, the holy grail of is what they call a transmedia property. So that's what Marvel has with all their cast of characters. Is you got this universe that spans across comic books and movies and all kind, you know, television, obviously. You know, whatever their web presence is. So that's what's known as a transmedia property. And the holy grail of creative media, I would say, is to have a transmedia property, something that is able to draw an audience in different places and different forms, and basically fully tap into the potential that property has to make a lot of different audiences happy, you know. And so, yeah, it certainly is prudent to consider all those possibilities. But yeah, the shirt sticker, that kind of stuff, or wallpaper, you know, that type of stuff would probably be up for grabs in the crowdfunding stage, I would say, for sure. Okay, so here I want to basically go into this layer. I'm going to hit the G key, but I'm going to put it in erase mode, and I'm just going to kind of clean up this. We've got a little bit of some garbage that was bleeding over top of him. All right, save that, and now I'm going to re-render. Just copy over it, and hopefully it'll look clean over in Blender. So yeah, I mean, it's been pretty much Tahoma for the last couple weeks, but going back to these earlier scenes and fixing things up has necessitated jumping into Blender. Okay, so I see what the problem is. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we do have a problem. You know, gosh, this is This is an interesting problem, because the question is how much do you kludge over something and keep pasting fixes over top of it, rather than saying, okay, hold it, stop the presses, let's back up and fix this properly. This is one of those decision points. The problem is that the actual let me see something here. The actual background is being deformed by the base the shape of the mesh. So basically he was off character. I fixed that, and up here it doesn't matter because you wouldn't think about that. You wouldn't say, oh well, your ceiling is deformed. But here it's kind of a big problem actually. And the bigger problem is that we have a gradient here across it because of the airbrush and stuff, so that it's going to be really hard to fix this with a solid color. What's also bugging me is, why am I still seeing these little artifacts when I don't see them here? That's weird. That is actually really weird. Makes me wonder about what's going on in the material or the texture. But it is updating. So what is that artifact? Do I have some grease pencil over top of this or something? So funny. When I was growing up, transmedia meant movies or TVs and books. Yeah, pretty much. Doctor Who, right? Star Trek, quintessential example. Definitely. Yep. That's what transmedia is all about. So yeah, this is really bugging me now. I've bumped into a very, very, very strange thing. This isn't the most beautiful thing I've ever drawn, but it's basically clean enough, and we don't have any blatant artifacts, but yet when I go into Blender I'm seeing these artifacts, and I guess we could see if they make it into the render. I'm pretty sure they are going to though. Okay, they're definitely there. Let's look at a proper render. And there, this is flattened out. So this line that's still making its way over top is a little bizarre. I'm not even going to think about the deformation of it, the fact that it's squished around. But this is a little bit of a bee in my bonnet. I'm like, what the heck is going on here that we would be seeing those artifacts in Blender? Let's go to the grease pencil layer here, or view, if you will. Let's go to turn the transform off. I'm going to go ahead and kill all these. Make sure there's no, so there is no grease pencil. That is weird. That is weird. That little artifact right there that's baked into the that is a very, oh, it's a hole. That's alpha. Okay, I know what's going on now. There must be a little tiny gap. There it is. By gum and by golly, there it is. Okay, sorry guys, how stupid can I be? Alright, so what I'm going to do, there is no way to fix this elegantly except to actually add a layer over top. I'll just hit the G key, sample that color, and go like that. Okay, so now that's also going to be covered up and fixed a bit by this stuff. So what's really weird though is, why are we seeing oh, it's still there. Jeez, oh Pete, come on. Oh, that's right, because I put it in a second layer. Okay, sorry. Stupid attack. So I'm going to take this and bake it down. Bake, bake, bake. And one of the reasons I haven't been using Krita so much too lately is because of what you guys are seeing here as we work, which is why it seems to bog down and be so. It's like you click on a layer. I just clicked it. Like, it takes 2 seconds to know that I clicked a layer. It's like, really? Alright, I'm going to re-render that and see what that does. Okay, I don't want to burst your bubble, but those lines in the background are straight and are not of the style you have in the scene. Oh, I know that. Yeah, you're not bursting my bubble, buddy. The lines in the background are straight and are not of the style you have in the scene. You'd be better off drawing them by hand in 30 seconds and avoiding it. Right. No, you're right. That is perennially the trade-off that we face. Now, if we look at this at actual size, we have to ask ourselves this question. Does it matter? Okay? Because if we look real close, yeah, right, you're right, Max. Yeah, look, you see a little noise here, it actually overlaps. There's some garbage, right? The question is, always, does it matter? And the answer is probably not, but maybe. It does depend. A flaw is only a flaw if you can see the flaw. So, I have 800. I'm gonna wait for OBS to reconnect here. OBS, really? You're gonna like drop frames for 10 freaking seconds? So OBS finally just reconnected. It's really annoying because there was something I was going to say that was kind of important, and because I'm waiting for OBS to reconnect, I'm going, well, you know, when's OBS going to reconnect? And then I lost my train of thought. So, tough luck there, Jack. All right, so let's go back here. Go back here. Let's reload these. So yeah, so we've solved this problem, and now what we have is we've got this wackiness in the background that's being deformed, right? So there is, and actually it looks like that deformation is truly baked into. Oh no, okay, I put it in key 2. Okay, that's interesting too, because that means that let me see something here. Oh, you know what that means? That means that everything else is baked into the animation. That's actually sort of good news. I am going to try something here. I'm going to make a bold choice. And my bold choice is going to be, can I split this off into pieces in a way that lets me solve my problem in a slightly non-intuitive manner? We definitely have to stretch his face. Okay. This is going to be interesting. Let's see what happens. When I said, okay, be in the bonnet, that's what I was saying. No, I didn't say it's only a flaw if you consider it a flaw. It's only a flaw if you can see it. In other words, put it this way. If I look really close here, this is fuzzy. This is actually a little bit blurred. Because of actually mapping it to a plane and the fact that there's deformation involved, there's a little bit of blurring. Okay? But the problem is, at the actual resolution you're going to see it on TV as a show, it looks more like this. So does the blurring matter? If you're a purist, then maybe it matters to you. Generally, friends, I am not a purist. I am a pragmatist. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. This may not work, but I'm going to try it. What I'm going to do is actually go Control. I'm going to grab what matters, and I'm going to go. Do I want to do a copy? I'm actually going to separate it. I'm just going to separate it and see what happens. Okay, so now we actually have two meshes, right? As you can see, let me turn off the proportional editing tool, and when we hit the go on the Y, there we go. Okay, so you can see what we have. Okay, so now this is definitely risky behavior. What would make more sense than what I'm sort of trying to do here, let's undo that. So, getting back to what I was saying to Max, be in my bonnet. What I mean is, when I'm looking at my work or an old scene I did, and I see something that befuddles me. It's like, what was I thinking? What did I do? Or what's going wrong here? As we see in Blender, there's certain things where it's like, this doesn't look the way it's supposed to look. Well, you know, I'm just a guy who, I'm a curious guy. I mean, why have I been talking about stock trading? You know, because I love to learn, you know, and so sometimes I get a bee in my bonnet where I'm like, well, I wonder if this would work. I wonder if that would work. Now, people can criticize me in all kinds of ways for good reason because, you know, what are you doing wasting time on that, Dave? Or why don't you take 30 seconds and fix this? But see, here's the thing. You have not created 2 entire episodes of an anime all by yourself. I have. Okay? So even though it seems like I'm chasing some stupid rabbit trail that makes no sense, the reality is I am very aware of the time cost of my education, and I'm very aware of you know, the whole reason I allow that bee to be in my bonnet is because it means that I am going to improve my process in a way that's going to pay off later in some way. In all likelihood. It's not 100%. There's a lot of, when you're developing a business or whatever, there's a lot of false flags. There's a lot of rabbit trails that lead nowhere. You know, there's a lot of mistakes made. That's okay. That's okay. We don't care about that. We're not worried about the mistakes. We're worried about learning and learning how to be effective. Okay, so now I'm going to say, what is this? I need to, I'll just do it from the menu. Select inverse, Control I. Okay, so that's what I wanted to do. So I'm gonna delete all these vertices. Okay, so what I just did was, now I've got a layer with his face over top of, right? So now what, it's kind of the same thing I did in Krita, actually. What I might be able to do, it may not work, but what I might be able to do is stretch this. And this is actually the stretching that I had before. So, so we can get rid of this key. And this might work. Turn this on. Okay. Now I'm going to play with it a little bit. I am actually going to play with this a little bit. And now, let's look at that rendered and see what we have. There's going to be some artifacts. Okay, yeah. So we got some artifacts up here that can probably be fixed with some judicious grease pencil. Oh, heck. We're having nothing but fun. So I'm just going to go here, and I'm going to go to the grease pencil interface, and we're actually going to fix this up with the grease pencil. Just because, why not? I'm feeling frisky. And so let's just get rid of all these layers so we kind of start clean. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. I want to keep this last layer so that I've got the colors. Okay, so now I have these colors. Let's do a little quick and dirty, judicious color adjustments. So we're going to create one color. We're going to create another color. Sorry. Where is my eyedropper? Boom. So we're going to use that color. We need the hat. Boom. And we're probably going to need the outline color, but that's going to be, we'll get to that when we get to it. So, okay. So now all I'm doing is, you are close. You'd be better off drawing them by avoiding the... Okay. Alright, so now, what we're going to do here actually is, this is going to be this color. Boom. And then what I'm going to do is, the D key, and I'm actually going to just drill over top of that with the grease pencil. And then I'm going to take this color and so yeah, this is, some people would say, well, that's kind of a pretty wacky way to fix your scene. It is. It's a little wacky. I don't care. I'm having fun. You know? But no, Max made a good point. There are definitely times when the right course of action is to just take half a second and just backpedal a little bit and fix the darn thing. Okay, so this is going to be our outline color. So we'll grab that. And now this is going to have to be done a little bit more carefully. Ooh, that I did not like at all. Okay, I see what I did wrong. Let me check something here. Oh, darn it. We've got that deformation I forgot about. Okay, now we're getting into the point of diminishing returns. That's funny. Let's see here. Edit strokes. Let's get rid of those again. Yeah, we've hit the point of diminishing returns where I could fix things. I could even animate them. I could actually animate his eyebrows over top of this. But is it worth it? See, the problem is, another problem is, if we do a standard render, we're not going to see the grease pencil. But if we do an unstandard render, I guess we need to make sure it's in only render mode. That kind of takes care of that. So this could get uglier and uglier, where we make mods in Blender and go bring it back into Krita and paint over it again. You're close to creating your first cartoon episode. Great. Yeah, and my point wasn't to be disparaging of anybody, but my point is that when it seems like I'm just kind of wasting time or spinning in circles, it's kind of like taking a loss in the marketplace. You go, oh, you're stupid, you took a loss. Well, yeah, I take a loss in the short term, but I get a gain in the long term. It's the same thing here. You know, I'm trading a little bit of educating myself, a little bit of saying, oh, let's just kind of play around with some different approaches here, and then that informs my process as I go down, you know, downstream. But the aggregate result is that the volume of work that I've done is enormously larger than probably almost anybody on YouTube as far as cartoons go. There's people that produce a lot more stuff than me, obviously, duh. But as far as an animated cartoon, a 2D animated, hand animated cartoon by one guy, you know, these educational moments help to refine the process and figure out kind of what works and what doesn't. And one of the greatest points of vulnerability in terms of having to really stop and think about what you're doing is when you're doing exactly what I'm doing today, which is going back to old scenes that were done in a different way before my process was as refined as it is now. If I was doing this scene today, I wouldn't be doing it in Blender. I would not. I would not be doing it in Krita. I'd be doing it in OpenToonz or Tahoma. Right? So yeah, I mean, and Maria kind of has the right idea. You know, if you guys are encouraged, inspired, or annoyed into creating your own cool stuff, then I think it's great. It's awesome, you know? I look forward to seeing what you do, Max. I really do. It's super cool. There's plenty of room in the marketplace out there for all of us doing the things we do. All right, so yeah, we definitely have a problem here that is going to be almost punitive in terms of what it's going to take to fix it. So I'm actually thinking maybe let's kind of go back here and rethink this a little bit. let's rethink this slightly. So you guys will, somebody out there will get annoyed. They'll say, wait, you know, you just spent what? Dude, you just spent an hour and a half dicking around with this scene only to kind of abandon the effort. Yep. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm cutting my losses. I'm not the guy who got excited about Bitcoin and bought it at $60,000, and then when it dropped down to 40, I said, "Oh, it'll turn. It'll change. I'm gonna hope. I'm gonna just hope. No. I'm the guy who, well, I didn't buy it at 60,000, but if I had, I would have sold it at 58. Okay, or something like that. You know, I would have cut my losses. So I'm doing the same thing here. I'm just cutting my losses. So Asher comes in here. So yeah, he looks around, and this shot was fine. This was fine. I'm trying to find the one that was egregious. Oh yeah, it was 45. Okay, so now this is interesting. Let's look at this characterization. That's interesting, because we actually have a different background here too. And this was probably done in Blender as well. So I would just say this: there is no short path actually. If you wanted to clean up the differences between this, and this, there's no short path. Now we've got essentially a different camera length. So here we're essentially using a shorter lens, you could say. Then this was more like a long lens, hence he's more compressed against his background. So here you've got this distant background, here you got this tight background. The simplest pragmatic solution to the problem I have right now is to actually take this shot and switch the background to this one, because the continuity would be fine, because this is what we had before. The next time we see him, we see this, and save this other little different background for here when we're doing the push in. So actually the solution is to chuck the whole background on this scene and use this background, use the tighter painting. Okay, so if we're going to do that, then now we're kind of in the same boat we were at before, where we say, where the heck did this come from? It's a real problem, people. So this is the great value I got here is watching how easy it is to actually create scenes. By the way, the storybook helped me. I'm glad, man. I'm super glad it helps you, because you know, I never know. I don't know if anything I'm saying actually helps anybody. I think there's a few people who come around just because they enjoy the, you know, the chatter, if you will, the some of the things I talk about. I can't imagine why they would want to know anything I think about anything, but if it helps somebody, that's great, you know. It's certainly, I find it beneficial, frankly, socially. It's more fun to work when you're talking to people. And of course, as an arrogant jerk that I am, you know, around here, I get to control the floor, right? Nobody gets to talk back. So I guess it's the benefit of broadcasting. That can be a bad thing. You said BDW, the story book, helped me a lot with writing and ideas. I don't know what you mean. What is B? Did you mean to say BTW, by the way? The story book. And I don't know if you're referring to something I did or something else. It must be something else. It isn't something I did. I don't know what that is. Quote unquote, the storybook. I've never heard of that. So anyway, we're over here, and it gets uglier and uglier. But what we're going to do is I'm actually going to close out. I'm going to open this up and see what it is. Ah, this is very bad news. I think this is very bad news. I'm pretty sure. Oh no, we're okay. Never mind. I thought this was. Whew, panic time. I thought this was going to be Blender 2.8. Okay, so there's that, but it's not deformed. So I need to, apparently I did a lattice deformation here. I'm going to close this too because I'm sick of looking at the ugly, ugly version of Asher. So I'm going to pull this down here and see what the heck this is. Okay, I used a lattice. Okay, so now this is going to be a little bit kind of interesting. Here, he's not moving, right? Actually, I can put this over here. I'm sorry, I just a moment ago I was on the wrong screen. So let me go back to this. Okay, so in my edit, this is what I'm seeing. Okay, so he only moves a little tiny bit. But if we come over to Blender, what we see is a pretty big move, actually. Pretty big move. Okay? Now, if we go back over here to this shot, we've got lip sync and a raising of the hand. Okay? So now let's go back to Blender and I wonder about this. Are we in edit mode here? No, we're in object mode. So we got this, we got this. This has, yes, this has deformations. So do we want to just redo the lip sync? That would be this. Yeah, he looks around. He kind of scowls. He kind of scowls and he raises his staff. By the way, okay, yeah, I've never heard of the story book. I'm assuming that's probably some well, it's like reading you know, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, like Joseph Campbell type stuff or whatever. I assume it gives you some concepts about story structure. I'm kind of a dramatica guy myself, so I tend to write you know, I can plot something out in an hour typically, you know, so you can come up with a concept, and a lot of times the most useful thing is to work backwards. So you basically have a situation where you say, this is where we have to get to in terms of either drama or a situation or comedy, whatever, and you say to yourself, well, okay, what would have to happen in order to get from my starting point to there? And then I kind of, by writing in reverse, it oftentimes makes it dead easy to solve story problems. So I'll basically kind of get the plot worked out, but then I use Dramatica as a software tool to just really drill deep on my characters and how they're interacting with each other, and the thematic well, themes that are woven throughout the story that you're wanting to convey. Okay, so we got this. Let me see something. This is being deformed by a lattice, which means there's not a good way to get this. I am actually going to take a half a second here and look at my you know, it's amazing. It's amazing how often I feel like I need to apologize to my YouTube audience, because I'm chasing down a path here that might go nowhere. It might literally lead to nowhere, where it didn't turn out to be that helpful. And it comes up frequently when you're going into old scenes and just trying to clean up your work. The efficiencies, the cleanness and the efficiencies that I have now in my work are much greater than they were even just a few months ago, and so I make fewer mistakes, and plus the way I'm working now, being mostly in Tahoma2D, tends to be very procedural, meaning if there's something that needs to be improved, it's usually pretty easy to improve it and have the changes just propagate downstream, right? A to M to Z, a triangle. The start, the right, the apex, the symmetrical turn to Z in the end. Yep. Yeah, there's lots of paradigms. Okay, so there's good news here, people. The good news is it turns out, look, we have an alpha-enabled version of Asher. So that would have to be deformed properly in order to make it work. But, and then we have our background. What I actually wonder about, I'm going to do something here real quick. I'm going to drag this sucker into Krita and say, well, what if we use the liquify tool to get a baked, you know, a solid version of this drawing of Asher that seems to be coming up back in episode 1, came up in a number of scenes. So why don't we see if we can actually dial in the raw material here in order to just make everything downstream easier. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. This is very much a procedural change. I'm wanting to fix the constituent assets that wind up getting used later in many scenes, right? So why don't we just fix the guy, fix the drawing, make it more on character, and the question is, are we going to introduce a degree of artifacting as a result of making this change? Because anytime you use the liquify tool, you do introduce a certain amount of blurring and whatnot. But I would say that we're probably okie dokie. I'm going to take this deformed version of Asher right here, copy it to the clipboard, come back to Krita, and hit Control V and paste it in so that I can compare. Yeah, he's still a lot more deformed in the Blender version. So let's just take this. Maybe we'll just turn the opacity of it down so that we can go in here. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that is kind of unfortunate. When you're actually using the liquify tool, Krita makes it fully opaque. So having a guide becomes kind of a non-starter. Actually, you're not allowed to have a guide, basically. That's most unfortunate. But what are you going to do? Right? So you can see that, yeah. This is definitely we're chasing rainbows here, folks. Not horrible, not horrible. There we go. Now it's starting to look like Asher. Yeah, it's close. It's close. And then I actually went too far with this. So that's pretty good, actually. So let's get rid of that. And now we're going to touch up the pencil work. So hit the B key. So like I said, this is just a drawing of Asher that seems to wind up getting used in multiple shots. So why don't we just go in and make it look good? Have I got the right brush? Make it look good, people. But yeah, like right now, the brush interactivity that I'm feeling here in Krita is not amazing. It's not really great. So yeah, I've been finding lately that Tahoma's not only more stable. Erase something, you need to make a modification, paint over an entire scene, do color correction, an overlay layer, a gradient, those things. They're so fast in Krita, but the thing is, what I've been finding is it's actually just as fast in Tahoma. And the reason is because in Tahoma, you're going to set something up in the schematic, and once you've got it set up so that you have like that overlay layer with a gradient or something, you just use it in every scene. You just keep bringing it back for every every shot, you know. So you have the cost of setting it up one time in exchange for the benefit of never having to really deal with it again, right? Whereas in Krita, you tend to have to reinvent the wheel quite a lot. So, no, I love Krita, but it's, oh, come on, Dave, really? It's been traditionally pretty unstable, and this is the most stable and performant version I've ever used. But it still is, I mean, it's a better painting program if you're really into just painting, definitely. It's a great painting program. But for animation, I guess, you know, if somebody said, what animation software should I learn? Depends on if you want to do CGI. If you want to do CGI, then obviously Blender's the way to go. But if you want to do straight 2D animation, I would have to say OpenToonz or Tahoma is the way to go. The way to go, people. I read Save the Cat. Blake Snyder, I think his name is. He actually died unexpectedly a couple of years ago. Massive heart attack kind of thing. Good book. Yeah, I've read Save the Cat. I actually gave my copy of Save the Cat to another filmmaker friend of mine. I basically gave him a whole stack of books that I had on my shelf that were related to screenwriting. Probably like 10 books. Just because I had read them, and all the ones you've heard of, you know, I've read them all. And, you know, they all have something useful, right, in there. But what I've also found is that once I developed a writing methodology with, you know, basically my own sort of unique methodology, I guess, combined with Dramatica, it's like whatever I need to write, I can write. I can usually write it pretty quickly, and it's going to be pretty good most of the time, kind of thing. I don't really miss have spectacular misses when it comes to writing. There was a time when I did. So it's a definite craft that you have to develop over time. But we all have things that we've developed the skill and we're good at, and we have other things that we're still kind of a work in progress. Writing is something I have no problem with. Animation, yeah, that's still a work in progress more. Right? Well, I kind of cheat because 99% of my plays are based on historical subjects, so the characters and story are basically already there. So I do research filling out the person. So now you have to give us one book to read. Max, is that directed to me? Give you a book to read? Actually, if I was going to tell somebody to read a book, they wouldn't want to read it probably, but it would probably be something about the Dramatica method, because basically it's a paradigm that folds in every single other theory of story. Every theory of story that's out there is well encompassed within the Dramatica, what would you say, the Dramatica framework, let's say. To you. Well, I'm not sure what you mean. Give you a book to read. Like suggest a book? You can read it online. Read the Dramatica theory of story. Just look that up. Dramatica theory of story. So it's going to be way deeper than, you know, what Blake Snyder does is great for a lot of people. This is what has to happen on page 14 or whatever it is. It has to be 110 pages long. You have to have this turning point, blah, blah, blah. A framework like that can be very useful, especially if you're making a film and you want to adhere to convention and have the best chance of selling your screenplay or making your film or being successful. So it is good to adhere to convention. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Dramatica theory of story. The Dramatica theory of story is, like I said, it's pretty deep. Most people, I think, that mess around with Dramatica wind up getting frustrated and quit and probably don't go as far as they could with it. It's funny because it's actually funny to consider the following. In the last 5 years, I've gone through a process that took between 2 and 4 weeks, like about a month, where I went into a really high intensity grokking phase where there was something that I was determined to learn and understand and really, really know it inside and out, to the point that goes way beyond what most people like probably get to, right? So the most recent one was technical stock trading. I really wanted to understand how money, or I should say how price action works, and how you can read the chart, and it's like learning a language. Okay, with a language, when I hear somebody speak Russian, I hear every word. I hear literally every word they say, but I'm not going to remember any of it, and I don't understand any of it. So so what happens is, as you learn the language, what happens is there's things that change inside your brain. And now when somebody speaks Russian to me, it means something to me if I learn the language. Well, this is the same way with everything. So as I've learned about technical trading, as I say, it's taken several weeks, but the good news is it only takes several weeks, right, to really learn a lot. I went through the process with technical trading. I went through the process last summer with the JavaScript language. I wanted to go deeper than I had gone with because I have a lot of web development clients, I've produced websites for plenty of clients over the years since 1998, I really wanted to dive deep in JavaScript and look at how the language really works, because it's very non-intuitive. It looks like C, but it doesn't really work like C under the hood in some ways, and which has mostly to do with the way it handles functions. Okay, because it is a functional language, so it's fundamentally kind of a different paradigm than C, even though the syntax looks the same. What I learned was there's a lot of, and this has often been the case with things I've learned, is that there's a lot of conventional wisdom and information out there about how JavaScript works that's basically wrong. But it works most of the time. When you operate on the wrong assumptions, you still can get the job done, right? I went through that with JavaScript. I went through it with Blender back around the year 2000, where a painful month I spent determined to figure this wacky, bizarre interface out and really learn how to use it. And that was, boy, oh boy, that's been 20 years ago. Okay, so what I want to do now is, there's no reason to keep that other drawing around, so I'm just going to get rid of it. Boop, gone. I just overwrote it. So this looks good. Now if we go back here and we reopen this, watch what's going to happen, I bet. Okay, we used a lattice deform, so I wonder why I stretch his nose up like that. So I'm going to go to this other recent one. Just start looking through here at what I've got. Whoops. That was really not the one I wanted. This one. Okay, so is that still referencing the same image? So this must be baked in. Okay. So here's the good news. Here's what we're going to do, guys. Now we're going to actually get busy. We're going to take this, and I'm going to search through my image library, if you will, and see what I can find in terms of a background. I think it's coming up here. Yep, this will work. Okay, cool. Let's just take this. So I'm going to drag this in here as a new layer. And I'm going to actually hit the A key. We're going to do a horizontal flip. And now I'm going to expand this like the Dickens. Like the proverbial Dickens. We're going to smack it over here. We're going to have to paint out those soldiers in the foreground. But that's okay. We're going to do this. We're going to put a blur on here. Let's do a Gaussian blur. So we definitely want to defocus that. Okay, now we're going to put this under here. So this has been a bit of a painful process, but whoop-de-doo, you know, because now I'm going to actually completely redo this shot pretty fast, and it should work fine. So what we're going to do is we're redoing shot number 45. Okay. So it would be kind of important to see what his line of dialogue is. 1. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just reference the old version of it and we'll just match that. So that looks pretty stupid. Let's see if we can fix this up. Okay. So I'm going to save this as 045. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go even one better. This is what I'm going to do. I don't know why I didn't think of this before. I'm going to slap this into Tahoma so that it'll all be fixable or updatable or tweakable downstream in a much, much easier way. So this is going to be shot number 45. And we're going to do also, let's actually hit undo a few times. See, now you're going to see why I've been spending all my time in Tahoma instead of Krita. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to actually pull this in here again, because what it's going to do is it's going to make it so I can cut this to the clipboard, Control C, and now I can make the changes to the background at my leisure. Okay, so now we do have a little bit of a problem. This probably should be scaled. Well, it's only going to be scaled up for this shot, so I guess we're okay. So I'm going to go here, go back here, take the version of Asher that's been fixed, hit Control A, Control C, and smack this into Tahoma. And now we have our starting point, so let's just save all. And now we can actually get some work done. So now we're going to grab the work done. So now we're going to grab this, take this, scale it. Let's crop this to the camera. All right, now we're going to move this around and let's just put it over here like that. And then we're going to go immediately into the effects schematic and say, okay, column 1 is going to be blurred. We're going to put a focal blur on that. So let's just do it. Boom, boom, boom. And so you guys are going to see right now, this is why I've been in Tahoma a lot lately, because it's just that when it's time to really get work done and kind of protect yourself against the occasional mistakes, it's just easier to deal with. Okay, so I'm going to make this maybe 8 pixels. And so now we've got a procedural blur there on the background, and the immediate thing here is I'm thinking that I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a duplicate of this, and I'm going to make a version of this that has no eyes, okay? And I'm going to make another duplicate, D key. So now what we're going to do here is I'm going to grab just kind of a garden variety brush, sample this, and I'm going to paint the eyes out here. I'm going to just paint all this out. Okay, so that takes care of that. Okay, and then in this drawing, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to leave only the eyes. Okay, so we're going to hit the erase. Okay, and the reason I'm doing this is now I'll be able to layer up these components any way I want to, when I want to, if I need to, and if I don't, I won't. But, you know, it's kind of like that quick just to break this character into pieces that can be used creatively as we go forward. Okay? So if I were to take this and this, I could put this on this layer, put this on this layer, erase this layer, actually, and as you can see, the result is that everything looks the same, but the truth is that the eyes are isolated, and so now we could animate those eyes, add new keyframes to change his expression, do whatever we want to do, right? That's good, Max. Max is never going to whine about After Effects again. I think that's a good thing, because After Effects, I said it the other day, After Effects is a very capable compositor, and you know, I think After Effects, I think all the assets you have in an After Effects scene are referenced from elsewhere, so it tends to be more like Tahoma, where it's everything is the main thing that really slows me down with Krita usually is the fact that everything is baked into the Krita file. There's a lot of benefit to that, but there's also a cost. The cost is you tend to have to you have to repeat yourself a lot, actually. It'd be like if you're writing a program, because you mentioned C code earlier, so I assume you understand this. It'd be like you're writing a program and you need a function, so you write the function, and then everywhere else in the program where you need to call that function, you actually copy and paste all the lines of code in that place. So there is a benefit to that because you've unrolled your code, and so typically, you might get a performance gain. It's not going to be much, but you might get a performance gain, theoretically, from just cutting and pasting the code. Well, there's a cost you pay. The cost is you get the same block of code in 17 different places, and there's no way they're actually all going to be identical because there's something that happens over here in the program that you have to change. So you go in and you change the code, and now you got 7 different versions of the function smattered all over the place. That's not a procedural workflow. That's what I mean by everything's baked in. That's the way Krita is. Everything's baked in. So you can't change something in one place and have the changes propagate. When I work with Tahoma, it does. So you're correct. What you're seeing today is pretty ugly, but the level of ugliness in the recent shots that I've done is way lower than the level of ugliness we had to deal with today. So, enough said about that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to stretch this out. His dialogue is basically, I don't even know. It's like open mouth and then kind of a shout. So I'm just gonna emulate that in Tahoma like right now. Right? So all I'm gonna do is create a vector layer because then I can just draw closed shapes really quickly. And we'll slide this back up here. So let's just do the lip sync this way. Let's just hit the B key and go like this. And then we're going to get rid of it there. I need to stretch this out so I can see it underneath. But yeah, I mean, I think the procedural approach is almost always better for most people, I would venture to say. And I kid you not, I have no idea what his line of dialogue is here. I have no idea what he is saying. And so now what we're going to do is just kind of adjust that color so it kind of sits in the mix where it's supposed to be. And now we've already matched up the lip sync from the earlier scene. Okay, so yeah, after watching you for this hour, you made a promise. Well, and sorry that, it may be a painful thing to watch. Going through old scenes to see what might need to be tweaked or whatever or fixed is always painful. It really is. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and actually make a couple adjustments here. I'm going to take the C key, boom. I'm going to go ahead and just dial in my mouth shape just because I can. Yep, I like it. Go here. This one, I'm only adjusting this one because I need to make sure I cover up the lines that were there before. Yep, there we go. And then this could be, I guess probably the right answer for this would be to lasso these guys and then just make this a little bit a bigger mouth like that. And then all that did was it just covered up the old the lines from the underlying drawing. Okay, so rewind, boom, boom. Okay, so now we have that. We may be rolling this into a plastic tool situation. Not sure yet, but my thinking is probably what we want to do is stretch this down to here, probably turn this level off, and then turn this one back on so that we can, whoops, wrong one, so that we can potentially actually use the plastic tool on the eyes. But my thinking is, let's see, in this original shot. Okay, the original shot has a crop that was done in Vegas, so all we have is really a scowling. There's a scowling going on. Okay, let's get the scowl. All right, so how are we going to do the scowl? Well, let's go here, and let's just go. We'll give it 2 frames to get into the shot. And then what I'm going to do is hit the D key, just so I can have that as a reference. And then this is my way of doing it. Your way may be different. What I'm going to do is go hit the R key to sample that color. And now I'm going to, this I do not like. Let's go -1. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm essentially smacking down the old eyebrows a bit. I'm going to hit the D key. I know this, again, this might be a little non-intuitive, but what I'm... Oh, come on, I can't get the stupid color right. But this will all make sense in due course. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is grab this color with the R key, boom, boom, and I'm going to paint back into this. Like so. I see somebody just posted something in the chat. Okay, so that's down like that, and then we go back to this one, and it's going to come up a little bit. I got to chisel this back out of here so that... Okay, so now those are a little dark. Obviously we've got a little artifact there, right there. So here's the R key. And now we're just going to basically do some hand painting here and fix it up the best we can. That looks stupid. And then here, what we need to do is just equalize this by making these eyebrows a little darker. This is Young Asher. For those who are keeping score, okay, and this could be stretched down like this, and then there's more we have to do, actually. Okay, so now we also wanna, I'm gonna use this brush instead. Alright, so now I'm gonna do kind of a similar thing. I'm gonna grab this color, and you guys probably have seen me do this a zillion times. Go like that, and then take it even further. Like that. Mr. Scowley. Mr. Scowley. Sounds like an Ozzy Osbourne song. Mr. Scowley. Do 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 do. So you're creating a cutout style at the moment. I guess you could call it that, yeah. I guess so. But there, I mean, that worked, right? That worked. That's all. Okay, now what we had in the original shot, yeah. Well, it looks like I did the same thing in the original version as far as his eyes go. So this looks a little better, and we're gonna have to animate the hand. So how do we do that? All right, let's go back here, grab this, hit the X key, make a mesh. Very good. We're gonna go do our usual routine here, where we're gonna try to protect the stuff we don't want to deform. Okay, and in this case, we're gonna deform this. Probably, I would say, we're going to want to have the ability at least to mod the head situation a little bit. If this rotates, I would say this probably wants to maybe go to there. This is the part I'm not sure about, is how I want to handle this. So I'm just going to kind of guess. Okay. Having done that, let's see what we have to work with. Okay. Okay, I don't like that because there's too much stretchy going on. So let's go back here. And in order to make that work, I think we need another node here, and then actually well, do we want to trust this to make it work, or do we want to have the ability to sort of tweak that independently? You're sitting there going, what are you talking about? Well, see, if we go like this, you can see that that gives us a lot better control of the cloth. So actually, that's probably what we want. That was probably the right choice. Looky there. That's pretty good. Okay, so now let's go into the schematic, and obviously, so we're not being completely stupid, we want to take the column 3. Where's column 3? Oh, column 3 is going through the plastic tool. Then we want to add column 5. And we want to add column 6. So that all of these layers that comprise Asher are now being influenced by the plastic tool. Sweet! Okay, let's go down here like that. Blah, 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 blah. Then we hit the X key again. And as you can see, now everything kind of works as advertised, you might say. Alright, so I'm going to go like this. Let's check our animation. Interpolation. Looks like it's linear. That's good. So now we're just going to give him a few frames to kind of boom. And then, I don't know, I'm going to assume that if we put a keyframe here and then do what we did in the original version of this and kind of go like that. Yeah, not too bad. Not whippy on the positioning here of this. So let's just make an adjustment. There we go. There we go. Okay, yeah, see how that stretching looks really stupid? Here's the fix for that. Here's how you fix that. What you want to do is, this is what's going to rotate. And so what you're going to do is actually put a little path down here like that. And that causes, when this rotates, it's going to protect and drag these along. You see that? See how it's way more controllable now? Works pretty well, actually. I mean, it really is kind of surprising how well it works if you kind of know how to do it. Okay, and now I would say, hold on. This, boom, and boom, boom. That's probably a little too much. Yeah. So now this feels more, definitely feels more better acted, if you will. Let me smack this back a little bit. Get away from the plastic tool. Boop. Just turn that off, and let's see what we have. And here we go. Okay, so now there is obviously one problem that you may have noticed if you're the astute viewer. And the problem is this. Watch this. I'm going to hit the X key again. And you can see that one of the things we need to do here, actually, somewhat non-intuitively, is to add 2 nodes on the stick. Here's why. You can see that it doesn't matter until we get to the end. But right here we have a problem. Okay? And you can see what the problem is, and the solution is to turn off keep distance and stretch the stick. Ta-da! Now we've solved that problem. Okay, so very good. Boom, boom, boom. And we probably want to save all, and we also probably want to set our render settings. So let's go to render. I guess it's saving right now. Output settings. So despite the pain that you've all experienced sitting through this today, the truth of the matter is that we've actually come around to a very productive place, and to knock out a several second long piece of completely finished animation in barely over 2 hours is actually stupidly fast. So all of that poking around and fiddling was for a purpose. And this is wrong. This is Tahoma being stupid. Okay, so we want this not to be caps. Scenes 045 render. Okay, and we're going to save and render, and then we're going to just jump right over to Vegas and see how it worked out for us. Okay, unless of course Tahoma blows up, which usually doesn't happen. Why it's taking a little time to pre-compute the frames, I don't know, but hopefully we're not at the precipice of a horrible disappointment. So let's give that a minute. We'll jump to calculations. And I'm going to cancel that. And file. Reopen this. Oh, come on. Darn it. Is Tahoma still rendering? A 57. File. Open it up. And now do we still have a warning? Yes. Okay, 045 to 000. That's interesting. Okay, so the best solution I would have is to actually just chop that out. Tools, clean the project media, and then let's just re-import 45. Rather than sit here and fight with, you know, why can't Vegas find it? It'd be easier to just reload it. So we're going to shot number 45. Boom, render. There it is. Let's take the whole sequence, open it up. What is the frame rate supposed to be? I'm assuming it's 8. I guess I can always change it after the fact if I need to, but so let's come down here, and there's 45. I believe this is it. Yeah. Okay, so now I can see a problem, and that's fine. We'll fix it. The problem is that we've got to crop this in a little bit. He's bleeding off the bottom of the screen here slightly, so I want to go like this, and then what I'm going to do is actually go a little ways into it and do that push that was going to be there before anyway. And look at that. Ta-da! And we got our shot fixed. Okay, so it goes to there, boom, and so this is the way that plays. Okay, hold on. Boom. Okay, yeah, that's way too late. Smack, and once he hits smack, it flashes over to those guys, and it looks to me like we've got a bad edit point there. So, okay, I think we're in good shape. We've fixed up Asher. Boom. Yep, there it is. Excellent. So there's that. Where's the earlier shot? Right here. So we're going from this to this to this. So yeah, the perspective is changing. I feel like he's a little actually off character here still, so that's something that's going to have to be addressed as well. But, luckily you saved, so Tahoma to try to act weird, at least you haven't lost your work. It hasn't actually happened in a long time. I've had a couple situations in the last week or so where I really thought maybe Tahoma was crashing, just like we had right here a minute ago. And in every case, it's turned out it was just having to really do some processing in the background, and everything turned out to be fine. So I don't know if I ever had a crash that lost me work this week. I remember there's a situation where I thought I was going to, but I can't remember if it turned out I did or didn't. I just don't remember. So, okay, good. So this shot's done, and here's the good news, people. What it means is, if I go back to this shot, and I say, well, this one's a little off character. Now that I have this done, this shot could be redone using this. This shot's already set up and ready to go, and the only thing I would have to change, actually, if I guess I just saved it, but I could go in here and say, well, for this last shot, I don't want the background cropped in as much, so I could just smack in a different background or just resize this one, and one way or another, no big deal. All the rudiments are in place to reproduce the acting, and it would probably take 15 minutes to redo shot number 52. And by putting it into Tahoma like this, we can always go back into the TNZ file and make more improvements and just do a quick re-render, right? So anyway, okay, that is it for this session. I think I'm done for the moment. I think I'm going to take a break. Don't know if I'll be continuing. Not sure if Darren's on today. I'm going to look and see right now. And if he is, I'm going to make a plug for his channel. So if you want to learn OpenToonz or Tahoma, go to this guy's channel, Darren T. And it doesn't look like he's got a live stream scheduled this morning. But Darren is in jolly old England, across the pond, and does a great job of teaching OpenToonz. And so anyway, with that, I am going to sign off. Thanks for hanging out there. You guys, hanging in there, I should say, and hanging out and hanging in there, because it's been a little bit brutal today, but it all wound up being in a good place. And frankly, if we would have taken this scene and just started drawing the whole thing from scratch and done it all from complete scratch, it would have taken about 2 hours. So kind of in the same place either way. So with that, I will say that there